Karma, retribution, lex talionis, an eye for an eye, the law of sowing and reaping. There may be something there to consider. Get your coffee. In the ancient Near East, among the Israelites and other people groups of the area and the time, they believed in what was called the law of retribution. Sometimes it is referred to as the law of retaliation or the law of return, lex talionis. There's a number of different names for it. The idea of the law of retribution is found as far back as the ancient Code of Hammurabi, nearly 4,000 years ago. It is then found among the Hebrews in the Hebrew Bible, and through the time of the Roman Empire as well. In the Far East, there is the ancient equivalent of the karmaic principles of cause and effect. The ideas continue to our day, and in the New Testament book of Galatians, we have a similar concept taught by the Apostle Paul in the law of sowing and reaping. Paul in Galatians chapter 6, he says, "Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever a man sows, that he will also reap. For he who sows to the flesh will of the flesh reap corruption, but he who sows to the Spirit will of the Spirit reap everlasting life." It isn't identical to the principle of karma in the Far East, retribution in Babylon, or an eye for an eye teaching in the Hebrew Scriptures, but there are connections. Golden rule, reaping, and sowing teachings are nearly universal in human culture. The concept is even seen in our day when people talk about paying it forward. When you find ideas that are basically universal throughout human culture and history, you should recognize that there is a connection to a fundamental truth, even if some cultures misunderstand or misapply whatever that fundamental truth is. Because I believe that the Scriptures are inspired, I'm convinced that Paul's teaching is profitable. It's useful for doctrine, reproof, correction, instruction in righteousness. So what should we learn from the fundamental truth of Galatians chapter 6, verses 7 and 8? Don't kid yourself. Your thoughts, words, actions will in some respect return to you, and if you continually plant into your life things that are corrupting, don't be surprised if you end up with a lot of corruption. But the inverse is true as well. If you plant into your life the things that are good, the things of the Spirit, you will reap good fruit that comes from it, ultimately everlasting life. So Paul wraps up his thought by saying, "Let us not grow weary while doing good, for in due season you shall reap, if you do not lose heart." This is an important teaching that I find that I return to frequently. Sometimes it is tiring and wearying to continue to do what is right, good, true, and beautiful, especially when, like the psalmist in Psalm 73, you observe others that are not doing what is good and right and true, and they seem to be experiencing blessing and goodness in return. But do not be deceived. God is not mocked. Whatever a man sows, that he will ultimately reap. Something to think about. We'll see you next time.